Well, hello once again, Niner faithful. I am Johnny Dell. This is the Johnny Dell Football Academy podcast. If you're wondering where Adam is across the street from his studio right now, waiting on a police escort to pass by. We bumped the show a little bit. He was running a little bit late and he got stuck. He said he's literally across the street from his studio. So once he hops in, we will see Adam's great face and we'll be doing the show as normal. But welcome in to the NFC Championship game preview. We are here. It's time. The 49ers have made it back to the NFC Championship game for the third straight year. And will this be the year that we make it back to the Super Bowl and are able to bring that sixth Lombardi back to San Francisco? We've all been talking about it all year, about how this was a special team that could do things, that could be at this point in the season, and it's here. We are just 2 days away, just 2 sleeps away from seeing the 49ers in their third straight NFC Championship game. We're going to dive into the matchup, to some of the storylines, what we think about the game coming up, and how we feel going forward. As always, you can catch us live here on YouTube. If you have your notifications set on, you know when this channel goes live. You can also catch the podcast, the audio version, wherever you get your podcast. So without much further ado, you are inside the Jonnydelsfootball Football Academy podcast. Well, hello and welcome once again. If you would do me a favor real quick, and that's if you would like the show, like the video, that helps the positive engagement. YouTube will then recommend this video to more people. And in the chat, if you hit hashtag JD49, it helps us get some of that engagement. It's a free way to support the channel and what we're doing. But we have a huge matchup coming this week against the Detroit Lions. The Kitties are coming into San Francisco and seeing if they can come away with their first trip to a Super Bowl pretty much ever. I know they had some NFL championships before the NFL actually existed as it is today with the Super Bowl era. But man, they're feeling good about where they're at. They've taken down a couple teams, and we have Mr. Adam Marino is in the studio.
Man, so did you let him know what happened? Did you show the video or no?
The video wasn't in the drive, man. It was
It didn't
still
load?
uploading. Yeah. So I
Okay.
think Adam was trying to send me a video of the police escort he was waiting on, but he was texting me. He was furiously texting me. Those fingers of fury were going. He was going, man, I'm stuck at a police escort. I'm literally across the street. I can
Yeah,
walk over there. It
I
sucks.
walked where I was at was right across from the studio, right? And it's from our big Coliseum. We've had Paul McCartney, we've had big Elton John at this venue, and the mayor's wife here in our city just died. And she was a prominent figure, owned a very beloved bar. And so every county, busloads of people were, I assume that's the only thing. So, but yes, thank you for the welcome back, Technic Chick. I am here, and man, I'm so fired up. I want to tell you a little bit about some line. So I'm not far from Detroit. So where I live is very close to Michigan. I'm about 45 minutes from the Michigan border. So there are many closet Detroit Lions fans who are taking the bag over their heads, and they are feisty. So I'm excited to get into some of the film that you did. I loved on Twitter. You shared, you went a little baldy, right? And you had your your ped going. And also, as Niner fans, we to talk about Goff, since we've seen him when he was with the Rams for so much. I was at the 49ers Lions game a couple years ago when we started the season, and I saw Trey Lance throw or did he run it in or throw it in? No, he threw it in for his very first touchdown. I was at that game, and I remember telling Lions fans that, man, get ready for Goff. He's going to be check down king, and he's not going to get it done. And, you know, I did see that there was on Colin Cowherd, he had stats of all these people, but he didn't show the face of the stats, and you're like, "That must be Brock Purdy, that must be Dak, that must be," and then nope, oh, it was number 4 in the league in this, 3 in the league in this, he was 5th in the league in this, and it was Jared Goff, like, quietly, he's had a very good season, and Lions fans are coming now, and I'm just jacked. Alright, alright.
See, what I find it really fascinating because I've seen a lot of my Twitter timeline of people being like, "Man, these Lion fans are coming out of nowhere. They're spicy. They're all this." Like I'm seeing a lot of people talk about that. I have not seen anything. And so, maybe it's just the engagement that I've been having and where I've been stopping and scrolling, but I haven't seen any of that as far as, Detroit fans and I have because some are like, man, they're almost as bad as Eagles fans. I'm like, well, here's the deal. Like, if I
They're not as
tweeted
bad.
anything about the Lion or about the Eagles, once that week came up, I was getting flooded by DMs and guys coming at it. Like they were literally just searching through anything to do with the Eagles and Niners content and just, guns blazing. I haven't had any Lions fans doing that. So, if there's some people out there that are doing this, I'm sure there is. They're not quite as rabid in seeking out the conflict, I think, um, as some of the Eagles fans were. But Steph, hey, Steph, she's here in the chat. Want to give a big shout out. You need to be subscribed to her channel. We're gonna go live. We just confirmed this over the last 12 hours or so. We're gonna go live after the game in a reaction show. She reached out to me and is like, "Hey, you want to come on and do a live show?" And I said, we'll see. We'll see what kind of mood I'm in. I'm usually if the last couple years I have not been in a good way. Maybe it'll be good for me if something happens to talk through it. We'll see. I told her I said I can be pretty emotional after some of these games. I'm a diehard fan through and through, and so yeah. But she says there was one that was getting feisty in her chat yesterday. But they've been nicer than Packers fans. Yeah, I've seen more positive engagement from Lions fans than I have Packers fans, and definitely a lot better than Eagles fans before that. I think some of it's just the Detroit. I mean, Detroit's a people that there's some feisty people. They've seen some stuff, and so they're a franchise that this is their real first playoff run in 30 years. So
Right. I understand the
they're really
feistiness.
in on it, yeah.
And
But yeah, Goff has had a quietly good year. He's the guy you can't sleep on, and he gets the ball to the right places. So, and we're gonna dive into a lot of that stuff. Adam, I don't know if you've had a chance to pull up the notes yet.
yes,
Um,
yep, I'm looking at him
yeah.
right now.
All right. So it'll be interesting. Yeah. And there's a couple good questions I saw here in the chat. We will get to a couple of these questions here in the chat as we go, but that's probably going to be a little bit later down the line.
Yeah, one thing was, speaking of feisty, on Instagram, Steph, I was, following you and you were getting feisty. You were getting after it with the moving the goalpost on Brock Purdy, and I love your passion. You were because you were just speaking facts, but I mean, you talk about feisty. Do not mess with Steph, and make sure you follow on all of her on all of her channels. Great, great, great work. That's my quarterback. Yeah, man, that's my quarterback. Love it. You
Y-
love to see it.
You know, and it's where I struggle with some of these big time sports shows and personalities. They're just so produced to create a certain sort of um what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a certain dynamic is that they want negative engagement and they're reaching out for both negative engagement and positive engagement. And what do I mean by that? Is that they're trying to rile up different parts of different fan bases because they know that when they do that, they see the analytics. They'll look at the analytics for segments that they put out on Twitter, and they use these things as like a big focus group in what's going to get the most eyeballs to their product. And so they'll some of these people they'll roll out a Nick Wright and have him just bag on Brock Purdy, and they see the 49ers fans come out with their pitchforks, they engage, they bring the eyeballs, and they're going to be fired up, and they want to see somebody dunk on Nick Wright. And so there's a producer who's looking at this who's going to say, look, every time Nick Wright bags on Brock Purdy, we get massive engagement. We get more eyeballs. And that's what we're after. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to have Nick Wright, no matter what, bag on Brock Purdy. And I mean, I do not believe fully that he actually believes most of the stuff he says. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
like, I'm sure he believes some of it, but he's given a role by a producer that says, you need to do this. And then they bring out another guy who's, got the goalposts and he's moving them around. And his job is to dunk on Nick Wright so that 49ers fans come in and they say, yeah, 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 get him, get him, get him. And they watch and they engage. That's what it's about. So I have a hard time, like, people have been like, you need to respond to some of this stuff on these things. And I go, I don't want to encourage that kind of discourse. That's not, what I want to do. And I'm not saying that anybody who does engage with that, you're doing something wrong. I think we just have to remember that is what is so driving so much of the narratives that are out there. It's not about facts. It's not about truth. It's about driving engagement in what fires up 49ers fans, because so much of this is just getting ridiculous at this point. It's just getting ridiculous. Because again, it's trying to produce a predictable outcome of engagement. That's, we're going to bag on Brock Purdy no matter what. Brock Purdy could go win the Super Bowl this year, and Nick Wright would still say something negative about him because it's going to
It was
get
the
49ers
defense.
fans
McCaffrey had
fired
3
up, and they're going
touchdowns.
to, yeah. I mean, there's going to be something there. So, I don't. That's not the kind of engagement we work into. And 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 Lisa says that's why I screen record and share only so I get paid on TikTok. um, yeah, she's like, I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna bring it in.
Thanks for the super
Which
chat,
which is super cool, and thank you for the super chat, Lisa. It's just Brock Purdy. He's one of the last 4 quarterbacks standing. He does things that are a high level playing in this league, and there's just I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the bagging on him. I'm tired of the drumming this up for everything. Look, it's like I said in my last review video. Brock Purdy is not Josh Allen. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He is not any of those guys.
Right.
He's Brock Purdy, and I love Brock Purdy, and I love the way Brock Purdy plays. And that's all that matters. And in the end, does he give this team a chance to win a Super Bowl? Absolutely. So
Yeah.
let's cross this bridge. Let's cross number 6 as we're here, and we'll worry about number 7 when it comes around.
No question. Let's get into some of the things that are on the top of our mind. For me, it's Deebo, man. I get that even if he's not 100%, that just having him on the field just changes the dynamic totally. And real quick, we have another super chat. The great Gonzo says, Johnny, what's the identity of this defense? Stop the run, no fly zone, bend but don't break. How do we know it's going as the D planned? Also, just ordered beef. Yeah, for the big day.
Yeah,
Hashtag
from White Oak
JD49.
Pastures. Hey,
Let's go.
when that comes in, let everybody know how it is. I'm gonna get to this one here in a little bit. We'll come back to this one. And just for some clarity, you're talking about our defense, right? Just let me know in the chat. You're referring to our defense. What's the identity of our defense?
Yeah.
Not Detroit's defense, correct? I just want to clarify that before I answer that.
Yeah, great Gonzo. Hit us up in the chat. Make sure you let us know. So as we get into Deebo, what do you think regarding? Let's maybe take 2 takes. One, he's going to be actually more than okay and like a difference maker, and then the one where the take where, man, he's really, if this was week 3 and we were 2-0, maybe he would sit and we had a bye after that. Let's go over both. What do you think? Let's go first, assuming that he is like, hey, he's Deebo, he's good to go. Obviously, how does that change the game versus Detroit?
So, one, Deebo is a guy that you have to account for where he is. He's like a Christian McCaffrey. And we've seen this at different times throughout the year. I remember the Dallas game. Dallas was very, very focused on where Christian McCaffrey was. LA, when we go and play them, they're very focused on where Christian McCaffrey is. So you're going to see like 3 receiver hook players in cover 4 are going to start shading to his side, because what teams don't want to do is put a Christian McCaffrey one-on-one in space with no backup. So, they want to have a plan where if Christian McCaffrey's in the flat, that there's going to be a help defender coming to rally to make the tackle, so that the guy out there, he's got, I need to make a sure one angle. I need to take away the outside against him. So if McCaffrey's going to break a tackle against me, it's going to be inside, funneling to some rallying help. That's the plan that they very much have. And so a lot of times you'll see a guy shading towards McCaffrey if he's going out in the flat, because again, they don't want it to be just one-on-one where McCaffrey's got a two-way go on this guy. That's a recipe for disaster. And you see a lot of the same stuff with Deebo, is that because he's so dangerous with the ball in his hands and he's got such great burst, they've got to make sure that there are guys around him, more than one, when he's on the field. So it begins to open up things for other people in the offense, and it stretches the defense towards his direction. People who've watched basketball have usually called it compared it to like Steph Curry, the Steph Curry gravitational force. It just draws people that way. McCaffrey does that. Deebo does that because of how special they are with the ball in their hands. And so, what does it bring to this offense? It brings an extension of the run game where you also have to account for the passing game. Deebo's a good receiver. He's able to beat man coverage. Not all the time. He's not our best man cover beating guy. That's Brandon Ayuk, but that's not his role. His role is the Z receiver, which is a guy that's going to be able to catch balls in traffic, make people miss, but get yards after the catch.
Right.
And so, teams have to account for that, because they're not going to be, when Deebo's on the field, they can't just sit there and say, well, we're going to pull a corner off the field, have one corner, have a man up on Ayuk, and have a safety on Deebo. You can't do that. He's good enough where he's going to beat that. So you
And
have to bring
Shanahan's
the
good
corner
enough.
out there. Right. And so, he does a lot of things for the offense. Now, does he play on Sunday? He was limited in practice yesterday, but he's moving his arms around fine. He was able to take his shirt off in the locker room, no wincing, no pain. So things are definitely trending in the right direction. And let's be real. You can't tell me that Deebo forgot about the comments that CJ Gardner-Johnson made about him back in October. I mean, I think we as fans have kind of forgot about that because there's so much that's happened between now and then. But I was just thinking about it this morning, and I was like, oh yeah, there's some beef there. And just like there was with Bradbury after the Eagles game, Deebo Samuel, he straight up said, he was asked about James Bradbury. He said, oh, he's trash. Oh, he's trash. And people are like, what? And he said, no, he's trash. And then Bradbury was asked about it. And he said something. Then they asked Deebo, do you regret saying that? He said, no, I don't regret saying nothing. Let's remember what CJ Gardner-Johnson said back in October, because this was for Deebo Samuel. This is right after the Eagles loss. Gardner-Johnson had said, don't be friendly when you see me. You better hope all that talk you're doing when you see all whatever round. What he's basically saying is, don't be friendly to me when you see me. You better hope that all the talk you're doing when you see us in whatever round of the playoffs that may be, because I can guard you. You can't run routes. You're a running back. I ain't going to sit here and play with you, little boy. That's what CJ Gardner-Johnson said. To which then Deebo Samuel replied, like, I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know, whatever. I'm a running back. What? So remember, this is the guy. He's a safety for the Lions. If you need to remember what his number is, it's number 2. So when you see him on Sunday, look for number 2. That is CJ Gardner-Johnson. It'll be easier to spot his number from the broadcast. Look for him and Deebo. There's going to be some beef there. This is the guy that called Deebo Samuel a running back. He's not a wide receiver. So I would say this is going to be spicy if you get Deebo in space on CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Remember the backstory even to that before Deebo was Saints and Bears. When he was with the Saints, he got into it, and he's been kind of a journeyman. He's been, that's what Deebo said also to him in the beef was, man, you can't even stay on a team. And because he got his bell rung in Chicago, there was a fight. And so he's known as a guy that, which I've been around the league enough, not I'm old enough to like know these guys across the league. You want them on your team, but when they're not on your team, you hate them. The Burficts, the Richard
The
Sherman,
Richard
like
Shermans.
these guys, like I get it. Like, and so if you're a Lions fan, you're eating it up as you should. But here's the deal is that Deebo, his slate is pretty clean in that when he says something, it backs up that way. Also, what you have to remember is the beef also stems from in Cleveland when he started stuff Deebo, and he's Gardner Johnson is saying that Trent Williams had to back him up. That, oh, all these little pretty boys, they don't want no smoke. You have to have Trent Williams. And if you look at that video, Deebo does start it and does a little shove, and it doesn't look like he even knows that his teammates are behind him. So I don't agree with that take. Of course, I'm a Niner fan, so of course I'm gonna be less subjective and say and stick up for my guy. But the facts are the facts in that video. Deebo, I don't think personally is looking for help from a 300-pound guy. He's Deebo is a bowling ball himself. So when Garner Johnson's like, "Oh, you need help," I think that definitely rubbed Deebo the wrong way, as it should. Like, no grown man wants to be known as a guy who is only in the like it's almost like I remember the for in the rap game, Ja Rule, how he said he was like a thug, but he grew up with like in a good situation, and that's why he got called out because he wasn't a real thug. Well, it's the same thing. Debo doesn't want no man wants to be in the NFL and looked at as like soft, right? And so of
Right.
course Debo's gonna fire back, and he should. And who would want to mess with Debo? The dude runs over all kinds of people. I don't understand where the beef originally came from. If it was like deep down they had a friend in common, or that's what I'm fascinated of, like the exact start of it, like what happened. But
And I think according to Debo, he's not sure where it is. I think it comes down to, a guy trying to pump themselves up when all the 49ers were talking about all offseason was how they were going to cook the Eagles, and he was on the Eagles last year. Remember that he was there on that Eagles team that faced the 49ers in the NFC Championship game last year, and so he's sitting there, saying, "Look, you can't run routes. You're running back." You're saying you would have cooked us, whatever. I'll get you in the playoffs. So it's going to be fun. Now, one thing that you aren't hearing any spiciness out of is these coaches. These coaches are being very complimentary of each other, and I think there's good reason for that. I don't think that's just a show. I think there is legitimate
oh, that's
respect
legit.
here
You shared
for
on Twitter.
for what these guys do. And I would say, I shared it on Twitter. And and Lisa, she's ready to throw some bows here.
Niner fans will fight
She's
all them
yeah,
MFers.
she's ready.
Yes,
She's
Lisa.
she's ready to slap hands here. But
Yeah, Dan
Dan
Campbell spoke
Campbell
well.
Dan Campbell had a really, really good breakdown there. I love it when coaches actually do address some scheme things, and Dan Campbell did a really good job of, he's the way he communicated it in a way that most people are going to be able to understand. Sometimes, you're going to get a guy who maybe gets so deep in the weeds of the scheme of things. A lot of the reporters just kind of sit there and blink a bunch of times. Um, Dan Campbell put it in a way that people can really understand. But it was a very, very accurate and something that it went along with what I've said about the Shanahan offense for a while. It was very, very accurate description of the Shanahan offense and what makes him so good as a play caller. He really is like he's got a plan for I'm going to do this and we're going to do this until it works. And we're going to we will find something that works because we know that if we can make this work, we've got you, and that's where it is. And because we're what you're going to have to do to stop this, what you are going to have to do to stop this is we know that this is how we're going to counter this against you, and then we're going to counter this, and then we're going to counter this, and it gets everything rolling. That if they can get that ball moving against you, then it's so difficult to stop. It just comes at you in waves. And so, that's what I really appreciate that. And look, Dan Campbell, when I look at their team, and I watched so much Lions film this week, that I'll first talk about their defense. Their defense, it's about attack. attack, 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 attack. It's a Dan Campbell like personality, bite your kneecaps off defense. Like they fight. There's a ton of effort on the defensive line. Their linebackers are not the most talented, but they fly to the ball. They're going to hurry. They're going to rally. They're going to, they do some things. Now they don't carry as much thump. They can get run over. So this is going to be a test for them. The physicality of this 49ers run game coming in with Christian McCaffrey, with Elijah Mitchell, with Deebo, of run after the catch and run through contact, and George Kittle as well. I saw the Buccaneers be able to fall forward on a number of runs, just again because of the thump that they can bring in there. Anzalone is a guy that's got decent speed. Not always great in the best of positions, doesn't carry a lot of thump when he gets to the ball carrier as far as filling and stuff. But they attack, and so they blitz about as much as anybody. They're going to come with a 5-man pressure and rush, fill those rush lanes as much as anybody in this league. And so you're going to get a lot of 6-man coverages. They do a lot of man. They play a lot of zones behind it. They do a lot of different matching zones in these behind these pressures. And again, that attacking nature is there. So, and people are going to see this on the preview video that I'm about an hour or two of editing away from having done and releasing today. Hopefully it'll be around lunchtime Pacific time is when I get that out. But like, what I mean in that is, so for example, they're going to have a time where the outside corners will match a lot of inbreakers from the final number 1 receiver. And what I mean by that, so if you have a 3 receivers set on, they're all on one side, and you have 2 inbreakers, and there's a third inbreaker from the number 1 receiver, the outermost receiver, that outside corner is going to match anything like that. And they look to attack hard. And that's how the Rams beat them. If we remember the wild card round, the Rams hit a 50-yard touchdown to Puka Nacua. That was against that kind of a defense, is that their corner was looking to aggressively match something underneath against Puka, and he just ran a stutter and go. And that's all they did. And beat that guy because he sat there and he was ready to attack. And, they've had these different plays where maybe they had a chance to make a tackle right after a catch, but they're going for the ball and they're just missing the ball, and they give up a big explosive because, again, they're trying to attack the ball. You see it all over tape, everything they do. It's not just in their scheme, it is in how their players play. Everything is, they're going to attack the offense. So that means it's very aggressive. That means you do have opportunities then for
screen game and stuff.
That it's that, yeah, well, that screen game, but more like if a guy can make somebody break a tackle, or you can get this guy just a little bit out of position, you're going to end up with opportunities for explosives. And that's one reason people have always said, their defensive backs are terrible. They give up a ton of yards. They do all this stuff. They do, but it's a risk reward thing. It's not just that they just can't cover. It's usually they're so aggressive in how they are playing their techniques because they're trying to force negatives. They're trying to get their hands on balls. They're trying to deny anything. And again, they're attacking you. They're a higher risk reward defense. So, if you're behind on some of these throws, if your timing is not there and you're just a couple feet behind on this throw, it might be a pick, because that guy's he's going for the ball. He's not trying to play the receiver. He's playing the route and the ball. And they're willing to leave a guy over there on an island, and he understands he's on an island. He's still going for the ball. He's not playing it safe. So, that's where they've been open to some of these explosive plays, is in this stuff. And it makes it, they're very, very aggressive. So that's what I see against this, is that one, you mitigate some of those risks with the run game. You get physical in that. Now they got a feisty D line, but this is a game I want to see the offensive line walk in and be the bullies, like take on that mantle, just like very much like the Eagles offensive line was all of last year. They took on that identity that they were going to come in against no matter what defensive line they were going to face. They were going to be a bully, and they were going to run the ball. They were going to establish a run, and that was the motor of their offense. I want to see our offensive line come in with that same sort of thing. Say, we're the bully. We're going to push these guys around. We're going to establish a new line of scrimmage every single play, and we're going to dominate this game because we are bigger and we're badder and we're better at all of this stuff. So that's what I want to see. If the offensive line does that, this game is over when it starts.
Yeah, I definitely want to see um if we can break some tackles and take a 73-yard touchdown and things like that. Another thing that I want to see is more people in the chat. We have over 125 people live with us in the chat, over 50 likes already. And what the best thing to do to support the channel, guys, is always to take your phone, show all Niner faithfuls, your friends, your family, show it to as many people as possible. Show the YouTube channel, show them your favorite highlight tape that Johnny's made. Show them the Brock Purdy for MVP. Show them prior podcasts, the one with Jesse Sapolu that was right after Dwight Clark Day, August 8th. Show them some of your favorites. Make sure they subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We're both on Twitter. Some of Johnny's tweets go incredibly viral and they're incredibly fun to follow, the subtweets or whatever we're calling them these days. Very, very fun. And then the second best way to support the channel is to go to the website. If Johnny has that, the JFA49.com, and there you can see, man, I'm excited. It's starting to get rolling. There's route trees. I'll have Johnny tell a little bit more about the route trees, but that is the second best way to support the channel. Thank you to everyone that's in the chat. We're going to get into a few more stuff, but Johnny, tell us about the website a little bit more.
Yeah, so that website is where people can become a member to directly support the channel and what we do. It makes videos like this possible. It's making going to the Senior Bowl next week possible, where we're going to be scouting players. And those who are members, remember, there's a there that to get to the members, excuse me, the members portion. It is portal.jfa49.com, and we're working on some stuff with there. But excuse me.
We need you healthy, man. Make sure you're good.
I'm getting emotional and
Yeah.
choked up over here. No.
Discuss.
Um, but it's where you can support the channel, and we're doing some exclusive content now. We've got one video out that's right now. It's the first part of a 3-part series, and it's really going to take off here in the off season because, like I said, I watched a ton of Lions film this week, getting prepared for this. This next week, I'll be doing a review video of win or loss, most likely a win, but win or loss Sunday, and then go into the Senior Bowl after that. And then, assuming we're in the Super Bowl, there's going to be a preview of the Super Bowl and then a breakdown of the Super Bowl. So everything is really on slate for that. These preview videos, like the scouting videos, they're shorter than review videos as far as the total time, but they take like 4 times the amount of time to do because there's so much film to watch.
For sure.
And yeah, I was getting a little verklempt up in here for the old SNL reference.
Right.
But yeah, JFA49.com, you can go there and become a direct support member, and it is so much appreciated. That also has access to the community portal where it's like Reddit, it's like Discord, it's all of that in one, and we're building that. People are getting more active in it, and it's really fun to be able to interact with people there. And so yeah, it's going really great, and that's the number one way you can support the channel. Or you can go to whiteoakpastures.com/JD49, which we heard has already happened. But there you can go and you can check out some amazing protein options. They're I'll come back to this super chat. Sorry, I was looking for it. From the great Gonzo. They are a family farm out of Bluffton, Georgia. It's all grass-fed, grass-finished beef, grass-fed, grass-finished lamb, pasture-raised, forage-fed pork. I will tell you, I have loved their pork products. They got all sorts of sausages. They're amazing. I just had some of their bratwurst last night. I just made some of their bratwurst last night. They're just unbelievable. They have sugar-free breakfast sausage. So, for people who can't have any sugar in their diet, but are still wanting some of that yummy breakfast sausage, it literally is just salt, black pepper, and sage, and that that high quality pork. It's amazing. And they come in everything frozen there and packaged there at the farm. It does not leave their hands until it is put in a box to come to your door. You can get that at whiteoakpastures.com/JD49. Some amazing protein options. Like I said, a couple weeks ago, I made a roast, one of the truck roasts from White Oak Pastures for a friend of mine. His wife had a little surgery on her elbow, couldn't move her arm. They got a couple little kids, and I was like, hey, I know what it would be like in my house if my wife couldn't move her arm for 2 weeks with our little kids. I'm gonna help you out. I made him dinner one night. I made one of those roasts. He texted me the next morning. He said that was the best roast I've ever had in my life. The flavor is just unbelievable. I tried their chorizo sausage from their pork the other day for some chorizo con huevos for our southern border people. For everybody else, that's chorizo and eggs. It was fantastic, just amazing. Their stuff is just absolutely great quality. And look, they're not paying me for just to plug their stuff. Like, it's not just you mention us and we pay you. They're an affiliate. I'm a customer as well. I use this stuff. They don't give me free stuff. I buy it from them because their stuff is that good. But yeah, as far as this game, it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. And the only concern I have is if we don't get enough pressure on Jared Goff.
Yeah. Do you think one thing too? Speaking of that, there was another super chat. We should get to both of them. The Brockness Monster. I was wondering that too because I saw a lot of Aiden Hutchinson. He says the confidence level in McKivitz versus Hutchinson. I saw a lot of Aiden Hutchinson, as a lot of my friends are Michigan fans, and it is a cool story. He went to high school right by the stadium. He went to the University of Michigan, and then the storybook ending, he gets drafted by the Detroit Lions, and he is a stud. So let's get into that first, and then we'll go back to the other super chat as well.
Yeah, so confidence level in McKivitz versus Hutchinson. If you're giving him a bunch of dropbacks where Hutchinson is in an obvious passing situation versus McKivitz, and it's a 5-man rush, everybody's in single man assignments, I'm not real confident there that McKivitz is going to hold up all game.
Yeah.
That's been our situation at right tackle for a while. That's also why we need to be able to run the ball. We need to be able to go play action. And I think we're going to run at him a lot. Sometimes, and that's not saying that he's a bad run defender. Sometimes you're not running at a guy just because you think he has a weakness in the run game. You're running at him because you don't want him to be full strength come the fourth quarter when you need to pass. Alex Gibbs talked about this as far as the wide zone, that he loved running wide zone to the weak side. Why? Because that's where most teams were putting their best pass rusher, is they were always trying to get him on a side, or what we call the flex side, away from the tight end, because then there's no possibility for help. So teams are constantly trying to scheme their best pass rusher, especially nowadays, away from the tight end. And look, this has been around for a while, but it's especially even nowadays. They're really trying to get those guys. You're seeing guys move left and right a lot more. It used to be like back in the day, a lot of times, for example, Strahan was always the defensive end on the right side. That's where he was all the time. And then teams usually put their best pass rusher on the left side. They were always going to be over there on the left side. Nowadays, you're seeing a lot more of these guys are moving around to try and get on the flex side away from the tight end. And so Gibbs said, I love to run wide zone at the weak side because that's where their best pass rusher is. And I want to wear his rear end down. That was his direct words. I want to wear him down so that by the fourth quarter, if it's a 2-minute drive, he's been having to work his butt off the entire game against our left tackle in the run game. And he doesn't have as much juice in his legs, and he's not as fresh. And isn't going to have the same burst in his pass rush for if we have to do that. That's one reason you do those things, is that you wear these guys, you make them stand up, you make them squat your left tackle for 3 quarters. So, I want to see us run at Hutchinson a good amount in this game, wear him down, wear him out. Yeah, it may be, you're going to have runs where it only gets 2 yards, but that doesn't mean it wasn't effective. That
Right.
doesn't mean it didn't have an impact. That doesn't mean that it was a bad decision by a coach. These are things that you play out over the course of a game. So that's where I'm at. I don't want to see it to be a drop back game where he can then change the game, because he's one of those pass rushers that can change the game. I call him the poor man's Nick Bosa, and I don't mean that as a slight. I mean that in that he reminds you so much of what he does as for what Nick Bosa can do. He's got that burst off the edge. He can transition from speed to power. He's a relentless motor guy. He's a good athlete. He doesn't have the size and quite the power that Nick Bosa has, but he's just a really good football player.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the matchup, as we have a couple other super chats from the great Gonzo. Reminds us too that White Oak Pastures has a great grinded bone natural dog food, so remember
They
that.
do.
And then another super chat from Kevin Reese says, how is or should the defense address bunch formation in the red zone? Man, we've talked about that, which allow the running back out in the flats, and they scored on the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, so I think a lot of these super chats we're going to be able to kind of pair together here with what Kevin is asking. It's a great question. Love it. Love this question. Also, what the great Gonzo says of what's the identity of this defense. We're going to tie this in as well, because these are two questions that go really, really well together. So if I was to say what's the identity of this defense, and how, and this goes into how we address some of these bunch formations, is I wouldn't say it's necessarily bend but don't break, or stop the run or no fly zone. It's a very multiple defense. So what do I mean by that? It means Steve Wilkes is not going to give you a lot of, like, every first down you're going to see this. Every second down, you're going to see this. Now, there are moments that he becomes really, really predictable. And this kind of goes in with what Kevin is asking about the bunch formations, because I'm assuming this is from my last review video where I talked about this against the Packers, that the Packers were able to come in some bunch and get some touchdowns by running all these different rub and interference routes. In the end, what I see with Steve Wilkes is that he's looking at, how do I try and mitigate the ways that teams are going to try and create matchups, favorable matchups. And so in that, why in the red zone, you tend to see him run man coverage so much, is because he wants to guarantee I have my best corner on your best receiver. And we saw that pay off at one point. I showed it in the review video. Mooney Ward was on Christian Watson, and they tried to run a little leak route with Watson coming out the backside of a play action. Mooney Ward jams him, and he covers him, and he takes that away. And then Jordan Love looks over there. It's not there. He's got to try and scramble out, and nearly gets sacked and throws it down to the running back. It's no gain. Okay, that's where that pays off, because you got your best cover guy on their best receiver, and you guaranteed it was there. Now, on the other side, you can then have the Packers are going to look at that, and they're going to say, we're going to come into a bunch formation, and we're going to now create rub routes to beat this, because you're not switching any of this stuff. So, and again, that's why he also comes out and says, I'm not going to come out in a predictable cover 3, because I'm not going to give you every time our strong safety is going to be on the strong side flat, and Dre Greenlaw is going to be in the weak side flat. And so what you're going to do is you're going to put Amon-Ra St. Brown on a flat route here and run off our corner, and you're going to have Dre Greenlaw one-on-one with Amon-Ra St. Brown in the flat. That is a mismatch there. That's a mismatch that you don't want. Or, they're gonna do it on the other side and have Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jahmyr Gibbs on Tayshaun Gibson. He's not going to be predictable to give you that matchup in the flat. So a team may be trying to scheme that up, and guess what? He's going to sit there and roll into a cover 2 zone cloud, and you got Diamador Lenore coming down driving on that flat route throw. So, that's what I see from Steve Wilkes, that he's constantly trying to keep one step ahead of the offense, to where he does not give you a favorable, easy matchup. Now, what that means is that sometimes, because there's and remember, he's a defensive backs guy. So this is looking at it from a defensive back's perspective of how we are going to match up and how we're going to account and fit against these different things, because that's what a lot of offenses do. When I was looking at the Lions tape, they love to match up Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery in the flats versus your linebackers and safeties. They love it. They do it all the time. They're very horizontal in this, and they love to get those guys into the flats against your linebackers and safeties. So, there's positives to that. The other sides of it is that you're going to be in a little bit more two-shell defenses, and that's going to make you a little more susceptible against the run. We saw that sometimes on early downs against the Packers. Now, overall, we did pretty well against the run. There was what we struggled with were the crack tosses, and that was really like the runs that we struggled with against. Everything inside, we hemmed up pretty well. But that tends to be the identity of this defense. They're going to run a lot of multiple coverages at you. Now, when you're running so many different coverages on so many of these different rundowns and fronts, that means that you have to really, everything has to be tied together, from your defensive line to your linebackers to your secondary, as far as all the different options and things that these guys have to play. Sometimes that defensive lineman who's been one gap his entire career up to this point with the 49ers and the 49ers system. Now, if we're in a certain coverage, say a too high coverage, and they motion a guy out, there's going to be a call from the linebackers that now he has to either slant in or two gap it. And that's something that they aren't as used to. And so there's been some growing pains through that stuff. So, as far as identity of this defense and how do we match those things, one, I would like to see Wilks be able to, be a little bit less predictable, as far as I'm not going to give you a really good matchup in the red zone, and be willing and to trust his guys, say we can run zone here when they match this up this time. The next time they do this, we're going to stay in our man coverage. The next time after that, we're going to go banjo. Really, really change that up so that offenses can't get predictable looks against you from these stack and bunch formations. That's what I would like to see. So I hope that answers both those questions in one.
Yeah, no, I love that. As we had a huge, just huge super chat from our guy Zach Shrout. Man, so I don't know about the jersey. That's awesome. Got my Arctic White Brock Purdy jersey in the mail. Boom. Also, I'm going to need some good edges, good gap discipline, some good force defender action, and I need it for my health. Hashtag
Zach, I swear you read the script from my preview video that's coming out here today. That is something I talk about over and over and over again in this video. Is you need to have a good, hard, strong edge to condense the run lanes, because they love a horizontal run game. They love a horizontal run game. They're going to attack you in the run game from sideline to sideline. It's very much like a Shanahan run game. They use the screen passes as an extension of the run game. They use swing passes again as an extension of the run game. They will give you the same look, and they will attack you from tackle to tackle from the exact same look action on the line. And so you have to have really good edges. You have to have really good gap discipline. Stay in your lanes from side to side. And those force defenders have to come up and be able to force that run back inside sooner. That was something that we struggled with against the Packers, is that on a lot of those crack tosses, guys were getting too wide. They weren't getting vertical to force those runs north and south sooner. Steve Wilks talked about that in his presser, that they've been working on that this week, that he said, we're working on getting more vertical on those, not getting so horizontal and letting those get so wide. That is something that we absolutely need. So you're nailing it right on the head there, Zach. That is exactly what we need to shut down this run game for the Lions. They are a big time run team. They love the play action, and they want to get the running game going, and they'll spread you out horizontally. They spread you out horizontally in the run game and the pass game to get these lanes, because what they're doing is some teams create, and this ties in really well, and why I wanted to come back to this. Gammon had asked earlier, what kind of offensive system do the Lions run, and what is the difference between a West Coast offense and the Don Coryell offense? So this is a great moment where we can dive into this a little bit too. The Air Coryell offense is very much about vertical stretching. It's going to really stretch as far as passing game. So that's deep routes, and then you're going to have multiple, maybe horizontal stretches deep. So it's really looking at everything to really extend that defense out, and you're going to get a lot of vertical lanes. So that's widening those depth lanes, so that, for example, you may have a big void between the 10 and the 20 in certain zones, and a bigger void between the 20 and the 40. You're trying to get these big, stretch them out zones or voids in the defense. Whereas more of a West Coast is much more horizontal. So we talk about, and Bill Walsh talked about this, about putting their athletes in space. What does that mean? That means that you force the defense to spread out so wide that there's no vertical help, and that there's not as much vertical ability to come down on you. Because when you're spreading so vertical, well, you can hit that underneath guy. Well, there's now two levels of defense behind that are going to rally up. When you spread really horizontal, now you're spreading everything out. And so everybody's in their own area of space. And it's not as much about, now I have to have a route that's going to bust your zone. I just have to get an athlete like Christian McCaffrey one-on-one out in the flat, and you've got four other guys that are occupied on the other side of the field. Now, if my guy beats your guy, there's nobody between him and the end zone. So people think of horizontal as being this like dink and dunk or finesse offense, and it looks that way a lot of times, but that's why you'll then also have, you break one tackle and it's in the end zone. Jerry Rice takes a slant and it's gone for 80 yards into the end zone. Deebo Samuel gets a little pass over the middle and it's gone into the end zone, because they've spread everything out so wide. I showed it on Twitter or X, that there was one of Purdy's bad throws. He got hit as he threw, that if he's able to get that on target, Ayuk is probably gone. I mean, and I showed it on the review video as well. Like, Ayuk is gone. Why? Because the defense was starting to get spread out horizontally, and they're having to move this way, because you have two or four routes, vacating the outsides of the field, and you have Ayuk coming over the middle, and the safety takes a bad angle. That's all you need. You beat one guy and it's gone to the end zone. So that's why a big difference there between the West Coast offense and the Air Coryell offense. And, for example, a Sean Payton offense is going to be much more Air Coryell based. It's going to be a lot more vertical passing there, and wide open like that. So that's what you see here. And what kind of offense do the Lions run? The Lions are a Shanahan wide zone West Coast based system. So that means, whereas classic West Coast was very much inside running and then these toss sweeps. So it was inside and gap man outside. So a lot of sweeps. They used to run the swing pass all the time, with pulling Jesse Sapolu out there and flipping it out there to Roger Craig. And nowadays, the Shanahan version of that is coming in, and it ties in this wide zone scheme, tight zone scheme into all these play action passes. But it's the same sort of philosophy behind it. We're going to spread you out horizontally. We're going to get a guy in space, and our guy has to be one of your guys, and we're gone. And so, that's really what it's about. It's about isolating that. So from a philosophical standpoint, now the nuts and bolts of how you make that happen is very varied, and there's a lot to that. But Zach, congratulations on the Arctic White Brock Purdy jersey. I told him last night, he messaged me and said he got that. I said, the next jersey I'm getting is either a Brock Purdy jersey or a Nick Bosa jersey in the 94 throwback. It's going to be the white 94 throwback, because that is my favorite jersey of all time. Maybe it's probably just as a kid, of the memories of the 94 year.
Yeah.
So I love that jersey.
So many memories in that style of jersey, as they were celebrating the old school unis. And I said unis because my dad calls it that. I'm like, what is a uni? It's a uniform. One thing that I thought of when looking at Detroit and looking at, okay, some problem areas or things that, if things go this way, it could be tough sledding for us. And one thing that I wanted to bring up and see what you guys thought is, because I was in this discussion with some Lions fans just last night at the bar, and that is the fact that if the 49ers lose this game, it is fair to say that possibly some heads will roll. Now, I'm not even going to get into who it would be, a coordinator, a coach, like whatever, but it is more than fair to say that it's possible that heads will roll if we lose. Now, what I am saying is if Detroit loses this game, there is not a single chance on God's green earth that any single head in the 313 area code will roll in their football organization. Not one single head will roll. And this is why they are ahead of schedule, as are the Houston Texans. Like, this is how it goes. I know the NFL is built to win now and you want to win now, but you cannot tell me that the Lions in the NFC Championship game is what the people who knew the most about football, what they were dissecting and what they were looking at. You cannot tell me that. I will not ever believe you. And so, yes, Callie Young, the pressure is all on us for sure. And so what I'm saying is I feel like that is the biggest thing to watch out for, because a team that blitzes and who has nothing to lose, what if they hit on that blitz? What if Hutchinson deflects a ball on a screen because he's just getting after it, and God forbid CJ Gardner Johnson grabs it and gets a pick six? I would not be the most shocked person in the world if that happens. And what I'm saying is it's not necessarily a scheme. It's not who's the receiver, number 14. He's got a brother that plays in the NFL. Amon Brown, right? Is that him? Okay. He's really good. He doesn't scare me as much as it's the idea that it's Detroit versus everybody. They haven't done it in 50 years. They got nothing to lose. They're going to come out swinging because that's who their coach is. He swung his helmet all over the place on the bench when the Giants played the 49ers in the playoffs. There's a clip of him with long hair next to Jeremy Shockey. We all have seen that, I'm sure. That he's just a fiery guy, nothing to lose. That's my rant. That is what I am worried about. Chat, do you agree? Johnny, what do you say to that?
Well, I'm always a guy that looks at as long as our guys on our details, the talent compared are not the same. Now, we said the same thing about the Packers, and it's true. The Packers were the ultimate house money team coming in, and they had a number of things go their way, and they had the weather that turned out to be, something in their favor. And as our guys were slipping and sliding all over the field on defense, and the 49ers were able to squeak away a win. Let's not act like it was like, well, we knew it the whole time. I sure didn't. I thought we were going to lose. So you do worry about that now. I do believe that the team is going to be really locked in. I don't know if I would say we have the most pressure on us. I think we have the most urgency on us. Is that the guys are understanding opportunities with a team as talented as this one do not come around very often. Why? Because you have to have a rookie quarterback on a very low wage scale playing at a phenomenally high level. Those opportunities and those windows are very short. It's why I think I retweeted out Marcus Spears on something he said about, if Josh Allen was on this team with all these weapons and he had Deebo and he had Kittle and he had Ayuk and he had Christian McCaffrey, that he'd be in the Hall of Fame already. They would already have voted him in before he even retired. And I go, well, yeah, but that's a hypothetical that literally cannot ever happen.
Right.
If tomorrow they let Deebo and Kittle and Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey out of their contracts and they went to go sign with Buffalo, Buffalo could not afford to sign them, even if Buffalo cleared $60 million in cap space. Why? Because Josh Allen is being paid $43 million a year. Brock Purdy's being paid $870,000 this year. Right. So the talent level on this team is here because Brock Purdy was the last pick of the draft, and he's playing at a really, really high level. And so that's why he has all these weapons around him. So a hypothetical of you put Lamar on this team and you put Lamar on this team, you have to take somebody off. You have to take multiple guys off. So you can't just put Lamar on this team. You can't just put Josh Allen on this team. You have to take somebody else off. Josh Allen in his second year did not play like Brock Purdy. They could have put the same cast around him. And that year, I believe he completed 56%, 55% of his passes. Brock Purdy's completing nearly 70% of his passes this season. So
Yeah.
you can't just say, well, we take this off and we put on there. So there is a sense of urgency that, look, we've got a really, really talented team because we have a quarterback in his second year that's doing something special, much like Ben Roethlisberger with the Steelers. They had a lot of talent on that Steelers team. Ben Roethlisberger was in his second season. Okay. And he wasn't making, top 5 in the league money. So, there's a sense of urgency here because they also look at what happened to the Eagles last year. That was one of the last years that Jalen Hurts' contract was really, really low. Now they've structured it really weird. He's got a balloon payment coming in 2030. I believe that's $97 million. But they're looking at it that, they had to structure that to keep their vets in their window. And I think these guys are looking at this and saying, look, we need to get this done this year. There's no messing around. This was too long. It took us too long to get back here. We have a really special team. Let's focus in. We got to play 8 more quarters and let's get it. And Christian McCaffrey talked about that, that look, there's a sense of urgency and they've looked around and they've said, this room is not going to be like this forever. So we need to get this done. And so I haven't felt the idea that they're under a lot of pressure. I think there's urgency, and I think that's a good thing. So, I get the side where that happens, but Detroit's going to have to throw haymakers to try and, really, like you said, go for it because they're ahead of schedule. They got to punch above their weight. And so they got to throw some haymakers. That leaves you open to some big counter punches. And so, and if they don't throw haymakers, I think you're going to see Kyle Shanahan just lean on them all game. I'm really hoping this game turns out much like the NFC Championship game the last time it was played in San Francisco.
Yeah, a lot of deciding factors, but very excited for the game. I'm interested to see is there a particular matchup? We talked about McKivitz, we talked about Hutchinson. On our end, you talked about running at him. Do we think that Bosa, maybe that Campbell says, all right, we're going to run at him? Or are there some kind of matchups that you're looking at? Like, okay, I'm intrigued to see what the chess match is as we have a real quick. Thanks, Lisa. Another super chat. No offense, but Josh Allen, bless his heart, is physically
No,
talented.
you got to say that like you're from my area of the country. Bless his heart.
Yeah. Oh, bless his heart. Is physically talented, but not mentally talented. He's from my county here and went to a really random college. Didn't he go to Wyoming?
Yeah, he went to Wyoming,
Yeah.
which was a place I live there out there. There's not much out there.
Yeah.
I lived there for 1 year. 1 year. That
He
was
can
it.
sling it. He can
But
definitely
Josh
sling it.
Allen, I love the bless his heart in there. That's a Southern saying that a lot of times is
Oh,
just
bless
kind of
his
like to soften the blow after you've said something really, really horrible.
Yeah.
Like, man, that is an ugly baby. Bless his heart.
Right, right.
Like, so I love it, Lisa. Now I will say Josh Allen, I've watched his tape. The dude can operate an offense and he really can work through a lot of progressions. The biggest thing about Josh Allen is that when he starts to get sped up, he has to see it before he throws it. And so if you give him a clear defined look and he can work through it and it's calm and his feet are calm and his mind is calm, then he'll look off a deep safety and he'll hit that rail route and he can get away with a lot of stuff because of his really big arm. But the other problem is that big arm gets him in trouble. And so that's where Josh Allen has had some struggles, especially in the playoffs, because suddenly those windows get tighter, those moments get a little bit tighter, and it comes down to are you able to do that? When we look back at the infamous Chiefs Bills game, what was it, 2020 or 2021 that they had, and it was just scores going wild. It was 2021 because the next week the Chiefs went and lost in the conference championship game to the Bengals. but everyone was going crazy because the last 6 minutes of that game, there was so much scoring. But I also look at it and go, well, yeah, but the first 54 minutes of that game, there was very little scoring. And so, people can argue about how the game ended and that there should have been changes to the overtime rules and all that. And I go, yeah, but if one of these guys makes a few more plays in quarter number 2, this is not a problem here. This isn't even in question. So, that's where I have is we see it with Josh Allen. My wife says she wants to get a Greenlaw jersey next, which was really fun. If you didn't see it, Ryan Hensley had a really good interview with Mike Singletary over on his channel, and one thing that Mike said in there is that he said 50. It's so funny because you can tell when guys are just used to watching tape and they're used to watching things where it's not necessarily about the player's name, it's always numbers. So the whole time Mike Singletary is calling up numbers, because that's what you see as a player. You don't focus on names, you focus on players or on numbers because that's what you can see out on the field. As he's sitting there goes, the linebacker 57, linebacker 57, he is nasty. He is nasty. He
Bless
reminds
his
me a lot
heart.
of Ricky Jackson. So he really thinks about that, and he had a lot of really good things to say about our linebackers, especially Dre Greenlaw. He really likes Dre Greenlaw. So my wife really wants to get a Dre Greenlaw jersey. Wifey, the only reason I'll wait until he gets another extension. I'm not sold that Dre Greenlaw is going to be here after
Right.
next year.
That's my issue too.
That's my only issue with Dre Greenlaw. I think they drafted D Winters to be his replacement because I just think the way this defense is being constructed, I don't see how we pay both Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, and we're going to pay Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk. And
Yeah.
if we're looking at that group, as much as it hurts me in my soul to say this, Dre is the guy that's going to be the least difficult to replace. And again, that pains my soul to even say that.
Totally.
But yeah, that's where it is. So that's the only reason I'm gonna say we might want to hold off on that Greenlaw jersey.
Yeah, that it does pain us to even think about that. What does not pain us to think about is some of the ways that you can support the channel. Remember, one of the best ways is to simply take your phone and just go up to strangers that are wearing Niner gear and say, "Hey, have you seen this channel? It is awesome. Check out this video. It's got 30,000 views." I've noticed that when you do that, that people don't want to feel left out. And if they're like 30,000 people, well, I want to be one of those. I don't want to be one that doesn't know. So you show him the video, the breakdowns, how he does the film and the X's and O's, as this channel is about the whys and hows of the game. And so that is one of the best ways. Show them your personal favorites from the podcast, those type of things. And then the other best way is to go to the website where you can become a member and you can be a part of the Discord and the community, and then see all of the film breakdowns that are going to be coming even more. They're going to be coming hot and heavy in the next 6 months. I would say it's going to be really fun, so definitely check those out. And remember also, we do have Johnny's wearing his black one. I'm wearing the shirt that my parents got me for Christmas, but the JD49, what I love about it is the double entendre, right? The X's and O's are known for like kiss, hug. I think of was that Nacho Libre, big kiss, little kiss, big kiss, little hug, big hug, kiss, kiss. So the X's and O's, you like that. You kind of like that, right? So the X's and O's, and then the X's and O's of the game. And so it's I love, SF, and on the back it does say the Johnny Dale Football Academy. So take a look at the shirts. They come in all different colors. Those are the ways to support the channel, and they're the super fun ways because you get to wear gear and you can share it with friends and things like that. So do we want to get into predictions? Did we cover all the super chats? I'll be honest. I don't.
Yeah, we got all those. I was
Man,
starring them as we
yes.
went, so there and any ones that we weren't able to get to. So it's
Okay.
fantastic. Y'all are popping in the chat. It's doing great. Any last questions for the chat? Get it in there soon. We're winding down here a little bit, but there's predictions. For me, I think my prediction is not as much a score prediction. it's a which way is this game going to go prediction. That's how I'm going to take it. I don't know about you, Adam.
Yeah, I have 24-17 good guys. I think there will be I'll be honest, I just think there will be a lot. I hate to say this, like I just think there'll be I'm already getting frustrated. I think there's gonna be a lot of frustrating moments, and I'm gonna say the over under on that is 5. And there's gonna be over 5 times where we're like, oh, Greenlaw, if you would have not gone for that fake, you would have, or McKivitz, if you wouldn't have false start, it would still be 3rd and 3. Now it's 3rd and 8, and Brock had to throw it away. Or I just think there's going to be at least 5 times where we look back and like, this game could have been 42-20, but it was way closer and we were down in the second half by 3, or something like that. That's how I see it going, and that I know that makes us all nervous, but I'm just being honest, and I'm trying to be as honest as I can.
So, I had a prediction on the last game. It was 38-17. Now, as far as defensively, I wasn't very far off. They scored 21. They had 3 scores. I said
That's
they
fair.
were going to get 2 touchdowns and a field goal. They ended up getting 3 touchdowns and a field goal, or excuse me, 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. So, I was off by a little bit there. Replaced a touchdown with a field goal, and that was what it was. Offensively, we saw that it was just we were a tick off on a number of plays, and the game really could have gotten out of hand. If you look at the way that second quarter ended and what the plan, what they were doing, and some miscues on in execution there, and into the second half, and again that missed shot to Ayuk, or play to Ayuk that could have gone for a house call, that was on that first drive coming out of the half. And so, this game, if it's 21-6, I think you're looking at 38-17. You're looking at a blowout, a walkaway blowout at that point, because of the way that the game was going. But you let Green Bay hang in there, you let them hang tough, and you let them stick in there, and then the elements start coming into play, and so all this stuff. So, yeah, it's a situation where the game can go a number of ways, and for me, what I want to see in this game, and what I'm predicting in this game, is I think the 49ers are going to look at this and say, we're going to establish this run game, and I think you're going to see, some counters that, as far as like just counter runs, that we haven't run as much of in this game. I think it's one of those that if you can get Anzalone and you can get the linebacker core moving one step in the wrong direction and come back against them, then you got a chance for some big runs with McCaffrey. And if that run game gets going a little bit, they're going to run play action. Those corners are susceptible to some big deep outs. I actually have some film here we can look at it. I had a few plays pulled up and ready to go, but I didn't have them here right on, like, at the start, because I wasn't exactly sure how the game or how this show was going to go. I just realized I closed the tab, so just give me 1 second here to pull it back up. That these are plays that we've seen Brock Purdy make, that I've seen teams make against the Lions, and I think is going to be there. So, here we go. We're going to pull this up, and I
Ooh,
do apologize for anybody who's watching or listening from
but they can go
the
back.
audio only version, because I have had some people say, man, I love listening to it. It's a little hard when I'm listening and you start talking about stuff that you're showing on film. So you can come back and watch it on YouTube. But here, the Lions, they love to bring a lot of pressure. So they're going to come with a 5-man rush here, and they're going to play a fire zone behind this. And so what that means, you got a corner here in a deep third. And what the Rams are going to do here is they're just going to run this receiver on a bench route. So he's going to come up 16 yards, and then it's going to be a roll to 21. But a lot of times it's roll to 21 to keep pushing this corner. I'm going to change colors here if I remember how. It's to push this corner up and keep pushing him up out of the break so that it gives the receiver room to come back to the ball. Okay, that's what you want to do. You want to keep pushing that corner vertical so that you can come back to the ball. And so you're going to see this from, why is it drawn on the screen when I'm not even clicking? That's so weird. You're going to see this come back to the ball, and you see what in the world is happening here. You see that the corner's in a bail technique. He's got his hips turned, and this receiver is going to come up here at 16 yards, break out, and watch where Matt Stafford in the break throws up. So he's in his throwing motion. Okay, your receiver hasn't come out of the break.
Yeah.
Boom. And so you're going to be able to win on this deep out here, this bench route, and it's there. This was on 3rd and 16, and they converted. Okay, so why do I say that this is there? Well, if we fast forward this, I'm going to go to our game against the Packers. This was on the game-winning drive. Okay, so and I just pulled these. These are going to be on the scouting preview video. But here are the Packers. This guy's in a deep third. So same coverage from the corner. And this is Chris Conley, and he's going to run a bench route. So same route. Break at 16 yards, roll to 21, come back to the ball. And watch Brock Purdy. We just saw Matt Stafford throw that with great anticipation. Brock Purdy here, boom, starting his wind up. Conley's just coming out of his break. He's going to roll, and he's going to catch this ball right about this at the sideline. I think it's at the 26. So you're seeing how early he's throwing this again, corner and a bail technique. So he's got to have to flip his hips and go attack this ball. And when a quarterback's throwing it so early, it's so hard for those corners to drive on that route. So, I think these plays are going to be there when they try and come with these fire zones and come with all this pressure and stuff. So, I think you run the ball, you get these play action going, and then you start pressuring Goff, and he puts the ball in harm's way. He nearly gave that game away to the Rams twice with some really bad decisions with the ball. I mean, like Jimmy G's sort of decisions with the ball where Jimmy G would just have these inexplicable turnovers, like ones where it's not an even normal looking in the NFL. It's like, what just happened?
Yeah.
That Jared Goff has some of those. He will put the ball in harm's way if you get him pressured and you take away his quick outlet. So, I think they're going to hit an explosive to Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to get like 10 catches and 130 yards. I think that's going to happen. I'm okay with that because I think if you take away some of his quick outlets and you get pressure on him, he's going to turn the ball over. I saw multiple turnovers and or near turnovers in the last couple playoff games. There was like that. The Buccaneers could have had that game. They had a big dropped interception in the red zone, and I'm going to show it on my preview video. So, I think this is a game that we get that run game going. You're going to see Brock Purdy hit some throws just like that. You're going to get the play action game going, and Jared Goff is going to turn this ball over, and that's when the game pulls away. Now, the other way the game can go is if you let them establish their run, you let them sit there and play this ball control offense, and they don't have to let Jared Goff sit back in the pocket for 2.5, 3 seconds. That's where this game can get murky and muddy and grimy. And you don't want to be in that situation versus a team like this, because this is a team that they are going to fight you from beginning to end. We saw that Dan Campbell's first season. We were up big in that game, big time. And then Jason Verrett tears his ACL. Kyle Shanahan freaks out, pulls all his starters, and they nearly came back in that game. I mean, that was an 8-point win because George Kittle recovered an onside kick. So, like, this is a team that's going to come at you the entire time. So if you don't start putting them away early, this is a team that will relentlessly come at you. And so I see it as going like the first one, the former, in that I think we're gonna start really pulling this game away and make Jared Goff lose the game for the Lions.
Man, is it Sunday yet? Like, I'm just ready. I have Lions fans literally texting me right now saying, "Is it Sunday at 6:30? Oh, I hate waiting around. Come on." And I am just so excited for the game. So in the chat, make sure go ahead and throw your predictions for the scores as we boost the algorithm one more time. Reminder, make sure that you hit the notification bell. Those of you that watch on YouTube, if you've sometimes missed when we go live, I bet I would put money on the fact that you have not hit the notification bell. So make
Or
sure you hit
you
that
don't have all notifications turned on, because remember
turned on. Yeah,
there
turn them
are
on.
different levels of notifications. There's personalized, there's like when it's just a regular video, and then there's live. Like if you turn all notifications to all, it'll be there. But yeah, Glass City is saying I'm afraid to give an actual prediction this week. As far as look, it's in that I watching so much tape, the Lions team, I could see either one being in this game. And that's what's so hard, is that they were almost equally, a team that looks like they could give you the give the game away at any point and let you have these opportunities. And other times they look like they could stifle anybody, and that they're going to be as explosive as anybody. So it's really, really hard for me to look at this matchup and say, this is what I know is going to happen. And that's just coming from a place of data points. For me, I think it's either going to be a really grimy, tough game. I don't see the 49ers getting blown out in this game. That's what I don't see.
Right.
But I don't, but it's one that I think we're going to walk away with this one. I think it's going to be like 31 to 17 sort of a thing. But I could also see it as being a 27-24. It's hard to judge, because this game could go either way, and it's going to come down to like 5 different plays. I think that's what it's going to come down to, is that there's going to be 5 plays where if we make these and Jared Goff, if we make these 3 and Jared Goff, gets rattled on these 2, the game is just it's way different. Or we don't make those 3 and Jared Goff doesn't make a mistake on these 2. Now we're talking about a different ball game. So, that's where it's so hard for me to do this, because this isn't like a game where I look at and I go, okay, over time, the aggregate will say the 49ers are going to pull away and they're going to be the better team on the field. The Lions are just so much like, they have this surge potential. And so but they also have a potential to really screw some things up. And there's some options for that on defense as well. That's what happens when you have such an aggressive team coming in, is that they can either really smack you in the mouth, or they can just fall down because they're swinging so hard.
Yeah, I'm really just man, I want a good game, one that we can be proud and say, man, we fought hard. There were some 5 or so plays that could have changed and it went our way, and we did we trusted each other. There's that clip of Fred Warner that is coming to mind where he he had the defense locked in and he was like, everyone needs to trust each other. Everyone needs to lock in, go one play at a time, not think ahead, and just go one play at a time and play for each other and trust each other. And it's our time now to go take it. And it's like, man, that's coming from a fellow player. He's in the trenches with them. This isn't Wilkes saying that. Like that sounds like a coach. That sounds like something that I would tell my players when I coached high school basketball. Like, and to hear that from your players is so awesome. And so they'll be ready to go. Weather should not be a factor. Like there's no issues, there's no worry about anything like that. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on the reports about Deebo, but I have a tough time believing that he's not putting the pads on. They're going to be on. How many snaps he gets or how much they use him, there's no way we can speculate that until that first quarter and you see maybe if they run a
Yeah.
screen for him or run him out of the backfield, right?
Now,
So
I do think our defensive line gets a lot more gets some sacks and a lot more pressures than they had last week. I talked about it on the review video, and it's been a big talking point this week. Nick Bosa or Kyle Shanahan was asked about that. Are you disappointed in the amount of money that you gave Nick Bosa this year, and you're not getting any sacks? And he goes, well, it doesn't really work like that. I don't walk in here and say X amount of dollars and X amount of sacks. That it doesn't really work that way. And he said exactly what I've been was saying all week about what Green Bay's approach was. He said, this was what Kyle Shanahan said in his presser. He said, look, Green Bay, that when you're keeping a running back and tight end in, and you're keeping guys in to chip and to help block and help protect, and you got 6, 7, 8 guys who are blocking, and then you have the quarterback, you're only getting 2 guys out for passes, or maybe a third guy out there. You're going to keep your team from getting a lot of sacks, but you're also not going to score a lot of points. And because, that's the way Kyle Shanahan was looking at that. That's why also Kyle Shanahan rarely keeps guys in to block as much. You see a lot more 5-man protections from the 49ers than most teams. And so you also then saw the Packers running a lot more 6 and 7-man protections than most teams. And I've seen this a lot throughout the year. People say, we're not getting the value out of our defensive line that we had. Well, you're also seeing that teams are really, really having a concerted effort to not let that defensive line take over a game, because they understand how good Javon Hargrave can be. They understand how good Nick Bosa can be, and how much these guys are full on game wreckers, and that they're great against the run, and they are really good again to rush the passer. So it's not a situation where, like, going up against Philadelphia last year, you have a couple guys on the edges maybe that you think you can run at, and so you think, well, our plan is going to be, we're going to get the run game going, and then we're going to be able to get some passes going, and so we don't have to commit as much to the pass protection game there. When you come against San Francisco, you're saying that defensive line is going to be really tough, and we have to have a plan. But the way Jared Goff is, he loves to get to his running backs. Like I said, he streamlines a lot of things. If he doesn't get the look he wants, he's almost instantly looking to get to his dump off. They do not want to keep that running back in and tight ends in to chip and help for Jared Goff, because Jared Goff does not do really well when he's only got 2 and 3 options to throw to. So Jared Goff takes a lot of sacks when that happens. And so this is going to be an opportunity where the defensive line is going to have more one-on-one opportunities than I think they've had in a number of weeks. Going back to this is going to look more like how that pass rush was looking coming out of the bye week, because you saw different teams were doing different things, and now you were getting more of those one-on-one opportunities, and suddenly it was like, wow, the pass rush just came out of nowhere, and it was all over these quarterbacks, and the defense was flying around, and they're doing all this stuff. I think the Lions, they would have to play completely left-handed for as far as Goff would, if they were to take that same game plan that the Packers had. And the Packers also really simplified a lot of reads for Jordan Love. There was very simple reads for him. It was 1, 2, run, sort of a thing. That's not going to be the case with Goff, but they're going to have that choice. Either he's got to be able to dump it off quickly, and that's where Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner are really going to have to tackle in the flats in space against these running backs, or they're going to keep him in. And I think when they do that, you're guaranteed that's your opportunities for negative plays. Their running backs are not great in pass protection, and Jared Goff can put the ball in harm's way when he's pressured.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, talking with Lions fans, which Jared Goff they'll get. Like, sometimes they just feel like, oh, the guy can't even check the ball down correctly. Like, oh, and then other times, like they say the last 2 games, like, oh man, that's been the Jared Goff that we had hoped that we would have got when we had that trade with Stafford. So, man, it's so exciting. Shout out to Matt Gaskell. If you guys can kind of see in the chat, I'm kind of having my separate chat with him. He is my buddy for 20 years, and I told him about the channel, and so he hangs out when he can. So Bang Bang Niner Gang, shout out to Matt Gaskell, and we will be meeting up at the bar that I was at last night, the Pub at 1802. Nice little bar in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I will be there for the JV game, and then going to a house party with some Lions fans. We kind of had that bet going from week 1. We said, hey, if the Niners and Lions play, now that when the Lions beat the Chiefs, they put the world on notice that they were going to be a good team this year. We said, hey, if they play, we'll meet at your house and we'll watch the game. And so that's what we're going to do. And so I'm very, very excited to go to the bar first and watch the JV game, and then varsity right after that. So, man, thank you guys for hanging out in the chat. This may have been, I don't know, it feels like, looking at the numbers, that this was the most watched live I know later when people watch it, this will hit well over 1,000 views, and that's awesome. But I love live in the chat when we have a lot of people. CJ Gray says, "Go ahead and put in the chat where you're going to watch." I kind of like seeing that. CJ Gray says, "Going to VA with your dad, and we'll watch. Will stress it will stress you completely out." Yes, we're all going to be stressed out. I think Johnny's watch is bad to watch Niner games with. Like, I'm pretty okay. I'm even
I'm
keel,
horrible.
but I get that. I think you're bad, Johnny. I could just tell, just from what your wife says, from what you've admitted. I feel like, oof. Even through texting sometimes, like, you'll ghost for like 5 hours. You'll ghost even me. And I've learned, like, just, hey, you're upset. It's like, it's no big deal. I'll talk to you later. But like, I think it's funny. Johnny ghosts, guys. I'll throw him
I'm
under
a
the bus.
nervous wreck. I do. I'll be honest. I do ghost people a lot during games. Like, and sometimes it's because I'm watching the game a little bit behind. If it's a close game, I don't want anybody texting me. I can't handle it.
Yeah.
And also too, like, I'm so hyper focused at that moment. It's like I have a hard time mentally getting away from the game and like functionally communicating with somebody. So yeah. Connie says she's gonna be at the game. That's
Ooh,
fantastic. I'm
man.
jelly of that. I am so
So
jelly.
I would love if you can maybe tag on Facebook or tag on Instagram. Connie, if you're on those, like, tag Johnny Dell Football Academy. Like, we'd love to see pictures. Or Connie, if you maybe even email us. Johnny, can you throw our email up there? If you can email pictures, we will show the pictures on the podcast when we have it, when we come to you guys after the game. That would be cool. And that's for everyone. Like, we love being interactive with you guys. I just came up with that idea just now, but I think that would be really cool. Send us your
And it'll
questions, send us
also be
your
in the
pictures.
description of the video for those who are watching after.
Yeah, yeah. Like, love that, Connie. Have a great time. Bang bang Niner gang. So, man, again, thank you guys so much for being with us live in the chat. We will see you after the game, and hopefully we will be in just spectacular moods. Johnny won't be ghosting any of you. And so until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, go Niners.